Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Tabletop Tactician and my long anticipated video highlighting how I paint and decal all my units for Global War 2025. This will apply to how I'm going to do up my Global War 1985 units as well, but I haven't got started on those yet as I want to have 2025 complete first. So here you'll notice a mix of units here. Some have already been painted, so I painted these up before I started with a color scheme and a decal destination figured out. That light a little better here, or a decal placement idea. So like these F-18s here are painted, as well as some of the drones here. So I'm going to cover everything from start to finish, covering both raw 3D printed piece here. So here we have a Nimitz and a plastic injection mold here with the Ford. So I have all my units laid out here. I like to lay them out. I'm a visual person. It gives me good organizational process here for all my units, in no particular order though. So let's start with tools you need. So the first thing that we'll need is some paint. So here I have the primer I've been using. This is just a flat gray primer here, a Rust-Oleum rattle can. I would love to use an airbrush, but don't quite have it there. And then I know this color is not correct, but just a flat, I prefer the flat colors, or in this case it's a satin here. This is a blue. However, here, let me grab the USA green. And so for the USA, I've been using this camouflage green color. This cap is a pretty good representation of the color. So we'll need our choice of paint. Some of the paints you'll find like what I showed here. This is what I used for the Caliphate. It's a 2-in-1 kind of primer. So you don't need to necessarily prime first, depending. However, what I've found, especially on the lighter colors, is the coloring here will look vastly different for a 3D printed piece with the gray on the bottom side versus a plastic injection molded piece. And it could be the same as well if you were painting a 3D printed piece that was, say, black alongside some that were gray. From there, we'll want some super glues here. I use two different types. This type here has a brush. This works great for applying glue underneath your aircraft here. So like here, this was too small to drill a hole. So I just applied it there flat on the bottom. And then this one is just a precision tip for applying into the holes there. This one's Loctite. This one is Superflex, whatever brand. Doesn't matter. Super glue is super glue. From there, another adhesive I like to use is an 8 in the decal here. This is Microset and Microsol from Microscale Industries. So Microset here will help soften the decals and improves the adhesion. And then the Microsol is really great for getting those decals to really apply across a odd surface. So for example here, the submarine here, getting that across that large arch there, really helpful to use the micro sole there as the finisher. And of course it's helpful to use the micro set beforehand, kind of put it down as you're putting the decal down on. Those are not required, but they're very helpful. And to put those on, use paintbrush. So I got a couple of those. Another thing that's really helpful, this is some sponge I found on Amazon, I believe. Just some sponge of some sort to plot up extra water. Tweezers, I'll use two different types here. These are the ones I like to use for my decals. They're a little larger, so they help with some of those larger decals. We'll focus. And then I have ones here that I've intentionally kind of mucked up the very tip here. So I'll use these for the magnets, as the magnets don't like to stick too well to them. So what I did here was both a combination of super glue getting stuck on them over the time using them, as well as roughing them up with a file. From there, hobby knife. I like this Ryobi one. I have bigger hands. It fits well in my hand. Any hobby knife will work. Then a pin vise, or kind of hand drill, whatever you'd like to call it. I'll use this to drill out the holes in the bottom of the pieces, mainly just on aircraft here. It's like this F-35 has a hole drilled there and then glue inserted, so when it's on the flight stand, it will provide a much more clean look. So after that, the only other tool we really need would be a cup of lukewarm water. You don't want it to be super hot, but lukewarm really helps with the decals going through quick. After tools, we need our pieces and decals. Here I have just some standard US flags from HBG, and then some Air Force roundel chevrons here. So we'll go ahead and leave you, oh, one more tool actually. It's weird, I know, but I use this eraser for when I'm drilling out the holes on the aircraft. So this is actually just a dry erase board eraser, foam. This actually would work very well too. I like this because it sits up and I can rest, here we go. I can rest my hands on the side of the table and work with the tiny piece here. It's like this F-22. When I go to use the pin vise, I can rest my hands here and hold the piece. And this helps cushion it to better prevent, say, snapping off a vertical stabilizer and having to do some surgery with that super glue. So let's go ahead and we'll start off here by showing you how I apply the magnets into the bottom of my air units. All right, everyone. So step one that I like to do is to drill out the hole on these guys. So if we look here, I've already done this one up. No magnet in there yet. I like to apply the magnet after the paint is on, as if we put it on first and paint gets over it, we have to scrape it off, and it's quite annoying. So I have this hole drilled out here, so we're going to show you how to do that on this here F-22 from Historical Board Gaming, which, once again, phenomenal detail for such a little piece. I mean, look, this is my thumb. So here I like to set it down here, belly side up, on my eraser, soft object, sponge, whatever you got to use. We'll get our pin vise here. So I size this just simply by holding the back of it up to the magnet I plan to use and getting about one size slightly larger. I do not remember which size this is, or I believe I'm using 2mm magnets. So this is probably just slightly larger there than that 2mm. So whichever size magnet you want to use, that's how I'll size it up here. So what I like to do is usually on the bottom here, you might have some sort of release here for supports from the 3D print. Not always. When there is, I like to aim for that, as it's usually about a good center point on the aircraft. However, if that's not there, like say on these F-35s, I will just center it up best I can with my eyeballs. So here I'm going to use that and take the pin vise in here. I'm going to set it down. I'm just going to start lightly, it slid off there, lightly spinning with little downward pressure, just to keep that centered. You're going to hear and start seeing it cut. So we'll see that come up out of the drill bit there. Then I'll start applying a little more pressure. Still pretty light. We'll get it to start coming up here. So we'll see we got quite a lot of debris coming up. Now once I feel like I might have, sorry about that, good amount of debris, I will let off all pressure and just cut. And this will clear up any nasty edges along the sides there. So we'll get that cleaned out there. We'll see our hole. So what I like to do is I'll take a stick of magnets here. It's just a bunch of them together, so I can hold it. And we will insert that in and kind of check our depth of one magnet there. And I think I would like this one to go in a little bit more. And keep in mind the thickness, sorry about that, of your aircraft as you're inserting. So I just want to cut a little bit more out of this guy. So here to show you, if I don't let that pressure up, this stuff will just stick there and be all nasty. So I will, just no pressure, spin there, voila, nice clean drill out there, and get that to focus. I'm pretty happy with that. So that is how I will drill out the holes for magnets for my flight stands. For aircraft, say like an Apache attack helicopter here, where there's not much structure down there, I will just glue. I found helicopters are pretty easy, as we can use usually these front two landing gear. Oh, it's magnetic, so it sticks as a good anchor point. And I will just take that super glue here with a brush and just apply that right there and set the magnet on with the tweezers that I messed up. Plastic tweezers would also work really well. Just something I've never tried, but that would probably be another good solution for you. Then once again, on these really small aircraft, like this Reaper drone here, it's also very difficult. There's not much room there. You'll see the magnet is pretty much the size of the fuselage. So I have drilled some of these out before. Yeah, like this one I drilled out. It's really fine. I did break a few of these. So I would recommend just gluing it on there, as it's really hard to tell. There we go. As it's really hard to tell when it's just sitting there flying when you're looking at it from above, that it's not drilled out. Other magnet items I will do, as some of you have seen in my playthroughs, is I'll put magnets on the bottom of my carriers and LHDs. So this is as simple as, once I have an aircraft with some magnets installed on it, I will put a magnet down underneath and set that aircraft on and let that magnet magnetize. From there on the bottom, all of HBGs are open on the bottom, so there's no need to drill out any fancy holes, and just put a nice glob of super glue over that magnet, leave it upside down for, I like to leave mine overnight. I'm a skeptic. It is super glue, so it can go fast. Something else you can do is buy this fast adhesive for super glue. So this is from AK Fix. It's a multi-purpose fast adhesive. It's a little aerosol can. It stinks. I recommend using it in a well-ventilated environment, if so. And just spray that on there and it will instantly fix your components. However, if you just leave them overnight, they'll turn out just fine. So that is what I'll do with my magnets. From there, we are ready to prep for painting our units. All right, everyone, now we have all of our pieces painted here. So these are one coat of the green, a little liberal, I might add, and a coat of primer there. So the first step after getting your pieces here is I like to let them cure for at least 24 hours before I start doing any decaling. So these all have had about 24 hours to cure. But first, if we'll remember on our F-22 here, we need to apply the magnet. Yes, I don't paint the bottom of my pieces. Spoiler alert, sorry guys. So what I like to do here, so we'll get the unit flipped over here, get you guys brought into frame here. And we have our trusty stick of magnets here. And we have our super glue. Here I'm using the one with the brush. So I'm going to go ahead and make some room. There we go. We'll get our super glue out here, but we want to have as little on here as possible. So I'm gonna work some of that off, and we're just going to put a little dabble in that hole, and we can see it there. So from there, I will take my magnets, and I will break just one off there. Ooh, there it is. Using my tweezers here that I have scuffed up on the end to demagnetize as best as possible. We'll pick that up, drop it on the floor, very critical. And we will, oh boy. Some surface tension here. There we go. Get her dropped in that hole there. Working it in, and voila. Then you have a little bit of time with super glue. We can get it worked how we like it. As flat as it can be there. And we'll let that one cure for a while as well. So now onto the fun part of decaling. All right, guys, for the decaling portion, I'm gonna start here with the aircraft. So the F-22 is still drying. So here we have the F-35 and the Apache. So here I have my decal sheet. I've already been doing some work here on the Americans. So I'm gonna start first with the Apache here. So for the Apache, on the helicopters, I like to put a marking on each side, on the back, usually right here along the rear fuselage. And to aid me in this, we'll grab a trusty old flight stand. I'll actually just clip it on to the side here to aid me. I'll go ahead and take my hobby knife and cut out a couple of roundels here. There we go, and I'll put the large sheet far away so we don't accidentally get any water on it. We'll then cut down the middle here. There we go. Separating out the two decals. Wonderful. And I'll bring our glass of water into the frame here. Trusty tweezers. And we'll go ahead and dip the first decal. Time will vary for how long the decal needs to sit. The smaller the decal, the faster it will separate from that backing paper. So for these small ones, I tend to give them about 5 to 10 seconds. Seems to be pretty good. It's not a super scientific 5 to 10 seconds, but it's 5 to 10 seconds. So then water is a very high surface tension. Keep that in mind. And we will just work our decal on here. So being very careful here, I'm not applying any downward pressure on the decal. I'm simply just trying to slide on the top here. Sometimes I'll use a paintbrush, but I usually like to have something with a little bit more stoutness behind it. And doing this through the camera is more difficult than it looks. Oh, we're almost there. Here we are. Oh, and then I pushed it on. Alright, I'm not going to make you guys... Oh, hang on. Yeah, I'm not going to make you guys suffer through me struggling here. Come back to you with it off. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. Paper removed. We can discard that. Then we will work to get that final positioning here. So remember, these are water slide decals, so they will move when they are wet. So not dabbing up any water yet. We're getting it maneuvered to where we would like it. That's about, I think, where I'd like this decal to sit, give or take. And we're going to take our sponge, give it a good press to get out all that extra moisture. So now I'm going to return it to the flight stand. I'm going to get out, because it's a curved surface, I want the decal to stick. We're going to get our, get our microsole back out here. Handy dandy little paintbrush. And we're going to go ahead and first use of the paintbrush here, so I'm going to get it all worked up. There we go, wiping away most of that excess. So we just need to apply a thin layer onto that decal. Now if you did not get all the moisture out, it might move on you. That's okay. You can always apply a little more water to get that secure. So for the helicopters, I like to do both sides. So I will repeat that step and show you in the final picture there. But from there, we're going to go ahead and set that helicopter to the side. We're going to get out our F-35. Here I'm going to cut out another decal. This one I've been using a different size. So for those of you maybe trying to replicate at home, I use the .129 there on the helicopter. For the wings of the F-35, I'm using the .142. Go ahead and get one cut out here. It's not that much larger. Very difficult to notice the difference, but I felt that it fit a little bit better on the F-35 there. And get our water back in the frame here. Just pick that decal up and give it a dip. This is about the same size, so I'll do about the same 5-10 seconds or so. That'll probably be all right. And we'll go ahead and start working that decal off. There we go. A lot better than on that Apache, what do we say? So here I have a lot of water built up, so that decal's not quite sitting anywhere. It's floating on that water. So I'm going to go ahead and not press down very hard, but just dab out some of that excess water. This should allow us to get our positioning. And we still have quite a bit of water there. There we go. I'm pretty happy with that. Go ahead and take our sponge back and get all that moisture out that we can. Bringing back our handy dandy microsole. And we're going to go ahead and paint that on. So getting a little bit here, wiping off most of that excess. And painting it on the decal there. And then I like to let these dry once again overnight before hitting them with a clear coat, just to make sure all that moisture has evaporated away. So that's how I do my various aircraft. Now we will move on to some ground forces. So clear this out of the way here. Don't need a flight stand anymore. We got a couple of tanks here and our infantrymen. So for these, we will go away from our roundels, and I prefer to use a flag for my land and air units. I have not done a tank yet, so I'm going to go ahead and size up a decal. I have done some infantry, so I know that I've been using the mid-size flag here on the infantry. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that out. And if I don't like it on the tank and want either a bigger or smaller, I know I can use it on that infantry. So here I have the 3D printed Abrams X and the stock M1A3, or M1A2. Whoa, excuse me, guys. Chaos ensues. And we'll see where we like this here. So it looks like this size will fit pretty nice right there on the back of the Abrams X. And similarly on the M1A1, A3, whichever came with the game. So perfect, we will go ahead and use this. I will just show you how I'm applying that to a more difficult surface here on the stock Abrams here. So we're going to be placing it over here. There's a few edges, so I'm going to show you how I go about that. So for that, I want to use the micro set. This will help prep that surface, help get that decal softened for the complex features of this surface here. So I'm going to go ahead and pre-paint on that area. And I dropped my decal in ahead of time, so that way we didn't have to do any waiting. Go ahead and pull that guy out. Set it on there. Ooh, begin to slide her on off. There we are. So now's the critical part for these very odd shapes, is getting the decal where we want it early. And I apologize, I'm taking all the light here, my fat fingers. So here, not a lot of water came with the decal, and that's okay. If you find you're having a hard time, you can always add a little more. But there we go. Almost there. I'm happy with that guy right there. I'm going to take our sponge, dab out that water, moisture, and we can see it is now taken to that odd surface. Now to help it adhere to the odd surface, once again, we'll get out our micro set using a different paintbrush than what I used for the micro, using a different paintbrush for the micro sole than I did for the micro set. Go ahead and apply that. So there we are. That is how I'll do the ground units. We'll now move on to the naval, to which we will be doing something a little special with our Ford class carrier versus our Nimitz. Alright everyone, time to round out the last part of this video, and that's how I would do naval units. So for most of my naval units, I would do something just like this, just putting the flag on the back here and painting the color. However, with carriers and LHDs, HBG does provide us with an option, and that is, not for every carrier type, but for some, we have some flight deck decals. So here I've bought some here for the Ford, and some for the America class. So that is the LHD here. So with these are the same waterslide decal as our regular sheet here. They're just much larger. So I've gone ahead and taken the liberty to cut this one out here. And we can place that on like so. Now with these decals, it's imperative to test fit. These decals are very sensitive to their size and placement, so we want to make sure to test fit, to make sure we have all the right areas trimmed. It's basically all the white here we need to eliminate. So these tight corners here, down here around the tower, the complex geometry there. I went ahead and just cut the back off here. There'll be a little bit of green showing on the back, but that's okay. This will just come across as white anyways. So this is a more challenging part of decaling, and I recommend it only to more seasoned decalers. If you are you've done up a lot of others, I would not make this my first decal attempt on these tiny pieces. Then when I don't have that option, what I'll do is, it's like this Nimitz doesn't have a carrier decal, so we can just add this to the back here. So I'll go ahead and get these two decaled up and come back to you.